Hi, I'm Larry Wilson, Emmy-nominated performer, communications expert, and 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year. I've just completed Hank Hoffmeyer's Hank's Marketing and Business Tips podcast, and we had a fantastic time. It's going to, I think it's going to drop August 11th. But Hank and I got so carried away that we went way over time and still felt like we had just scratched the surface. We really hit it off. So he asked me if I wouldn't record something as a little bit of a taste-tempting appetizer of what's coming up August 11th. And so I have. One of the things that we talked about that I think is so important in my Wilson method teaching, I emphasize that I don't teach anything about talent. I don't know how to do that. I wish I did. That would be fantastic if I could teach you to be talented. I don't know anyone who can teach you how to do that. I teach technique. Everything in Wilson method is technique driven, which is great news because technique can be transferable. Technique can be duplicatable. Talent cannot. And I think it's great news because it means that anyone, you don't even really have to have any special skills or attributes at all. If you speak English well enough to understand what I'm saying, it doesn't have to be your first language. I've had a number of students who spoke English as a second language, and they got fantastic results. So if you're able to speak English, then you have everything you need to be able to benefit from the things that Hank and I talk about and the things I present there in the upcoming podcast. But I thought I'd tell a story just because Hank was amused by some of the people I've worked with over this long, checkered career of mine. And some of the people I work with are extremely famous. Academy Award-winning actors and writers and directors and recording stars, the biggest celebrities in the world. And I felt they were the best communicators in the world because I saw that they used techniques to get everything they wanted out of life. So for Hank Hoffmeyer, I'm going to share a story. Now, this I did not personally witness, which is why I thought it'd be all right to share it here. But it's a very, very clear example of the difference between technique and talent. Back in the early 1960s, the director David Lean decided he wanted to create this cinematic masterpiece, Lawrence of Arabia. And for the charismatic Lawrence himself, he cast this young British actor, Peter O'Toole, who had done some work but was not famous at this point. And this film, Lawrence of Arabia, made Peter O'Toole an international film star. I mean, he was gigantic, and deservedly so. He enormously talented actor and fantastic performance in this and many other films. But it was a complicated shoot. It took months and months on location. This was part of David Lean's vision that they were going to shoot this magnum opus in the deserts and with real people riding camels and horses and firing cannons and battles. And this is way in the days before any kind of computer-generated graphics. There was nothing like that. If you wanted a battle scene with 1,000 people in it, you had to hire 1,000 extras. And if they had to carry guns or ride horses or camels, or all of that had to be provided. Very, very expensive. And there's a key scene in the film that is referred to by film historians as the Battle of Aqaba, when Lawrence leads his people in fighting the enemy, and very exciting, very dramatic, gigantic action, and literally involved thousands of extras riding camels, riding horses, pyrotechnics, things exploding, and cannons firing, and guns shooting, and people falling off of their horses as they're galloping. Complicated stuff with stunt people and pyro and costume and just untold amounts of money. So all of the stars, the director, they all had trailers that they could have to stay in while they're on location in the desert here. And the first assistant director's job is to go and round up the talent when they're ready to shoot. Sometimes takes hours to set up a shot. The lighting has to be just right. Camera people rehearse their movements. The director of photography is examining where he wants the camera placement and movement and all sort of thing. But with a big, complicated battle scene like this, they probably spent, I would imagine, a week or more just in preparation. So when they're ready to shoot, the very first day of shooting, the first AD goes up to Peter O'Toole's trailer and knocks on the door. Mr. O'Toole, we're ready on set for you. And he said, O'Toole opens the door of his trailer. He's in costume, steps outside and surveys this landscape of thousands of mounted extras, costumed, hundreds at least of technicians with every manner of support, lighting, sound, food, travel, everything. O'Toole looks out over this landscape and says, "No, not today. I don't think so." And turns, walks back inside his trailer and shuts the door. And the first AD knocks on the door. Mr. O'Toole, nothing. So in a panic, the first assistant director runs to David Lean and says, Mr. Lean, I don't know what to do. I went to get Mr. O'Toole, and then he came out and he just sort of said, no, not today. And they went back and closed, and he won't come out, he won't answer the door. Well, what are we going to do? And Lean says, there's nothing we can do. He's not feeling it. So let's get a second unit camera. Let's try to shoot as much as we can. Shots of people riding, of falling, of guns going off, what they call second unit. It's not the most important stuff. It doesn't involve the stars. He said, let's shoot as much as we can today, and tomorrow we'll try again with Mr. O'Toole. And then the next day, they went and got him, and he was fine. He came out, did a magnificent job. In the film, you see his incredible performance. But this is the fundamental difference between technique and talent. Talent, who knows when the muse will strike? Who knows if you'll be able to harness that talent when the time comes? The Academy Award-winning actors I worked with, almost to a single one, depended on technique. They did not want to rely on whether the mood would strike them when the director calls action. That's incredibly good news for you, because everyone can learn technique. If there's one major takeaway from my podcast with Hank Hoffmeyer, it's this: everyone can learn and practice technique, and the more you do it, the better you get. My Wilson Method communications training is geared to teach anyone how to communicate in a way that makes other people want to invest in you professionally and personally. And it's easy. Anyone can do it. And it works.